right, now we're live.
Oh, hold on. It's loaded. Well, we might be live. I don't know. It's setting up.
Mm.
All right. We're good to go.
Awesome.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another chat here at NextOppSocial. I am Rachele Wright. I am joined by, see if I can pass it over this way in the way that my screen is situated, by my co-host, JuJuan Buford. And we are so excited to welcome today Kieara Johnson of All Things Business Center. Granted, we're going to talk about a bunch of things. She does more than just that. But that's how I actually found Kieara, was as a All Things Business Center helps entrepreneurs and business owners start and grow businesses. They offer virtual assistant services, co-working spaces, virtual offices, events and classes, a whole lot more, the whole gambit of it. So Kieara, we are so happy you could make the time today with us for this. But yeah, I'm going to let you do your own little introduction here. I don't want to speak for you. But yeah, tell us more about yourself. I know we were talking a little bit right before we jumped on how you got started with entrepreneurship, and just a little bit about what you're doing right now with ATB.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both for having me here today. It's such an honor. But a little bit about myself. Again, my name is Kieara Johnson, and I am the owner of All Things Business Center, aka All Things Business. And we are your online business solution firm where we help startup and small businesses with a various of different services. As far as getting you established as a business owner to virtual assistant services of your everyday tasks that will save you money and time, as well as social media management, website development, and CRM systems for your processes and services. And I actually got into this because this is what I did for my 9-to-5 job. And I was ready to go from that job. And I love the people that was there, most of them, they're like family. But I wanted to branch off and do my own thing so I can focus on my other ventures. And I was saying, well, I'm sure I can take this and find clients and do it on my own. And that's exactly what I did. So before I quit, let's make that clear. Before I quit, I started marketing and reaching out to my warm audience and say, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. Here's the services that we're offering. And if you need, or you know someone that needs, let's get rocking and rolling. And I started to get clients, and it started to exceed my income very quickly, that what I was making at work. So in the first month of starting this business, I made 3 months worth of my income that I was making at my job. So I said, well, sounds like it's a good start and it's time to go. And so business, continues to keep coming. And now I am doing this full time and building my team in the process and rocking and rolling.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so exciting. What were some of the growing pains, though, that you had when you made the transition, right? Because you're earning the revenue, you earn the income, but you didn't quite have infrastructure yet, right? You're going out there taking on the clients. What was one of the toughest lessons you learned from operating as a W-2 and an employee to, okay, I'm earning revenue, I'm earning income as an entrepreneur, but now I got to start putting some pieces together. What does that process look like?
Absolutely. So the main thing that I found was being true to what you do. Like when you're in entrepreneurship, you just want to take all the clients because you want the money. And so my clients would be like, hey, do you do this? And do you do that? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Because I'm like, I can figure it out. We can do it, and then I had the pressure and the stress of now trying to figure out something that really was not our specialty in our forte. Because when you have a W-2, they do all the training. Their systems is already set. Exactly what you have to do, at least for the job that I was in. Again, I was an executive assistant and project manager. So my task was pretty much the same all the time. And I had that structure. I knew exactly what I needed to do. And then I got the training from them. So now I am solely responsible for my own systems, for my own processes and, and all of that. So even though I knew the type of work that I wanted, when those clients also say, yes, I also want to hire you for X, Y, and Z, I was like, okay, sure. And then I'm like, why did you do that? Like, don't do that again. Like, that's not a good idea. Stay true. And then maybe if that's a service that you want to offer in the future, once you got a grip on what you currently are doing, then you can do that. And then I think the next thing for me has been time management. Especially because, I have children, I have a husband, and they're at home, right now, and I can't go anywhere else to work. I'm in the house due to the pandemic. And so they range from the ages of 16 to 2. And so my 2-year-old is like, I need your time. And I'm like, no, mommy has to work. So when I'm at a job, I'm able to stay focused and I know what time I have to be there and what time I get off. Here, just trying to adjust, managing children at home, as well as the business, as well as my clients, that was a big transition of being able to say, okay, from this time, I'm going to work on this. From that time, I'm going to work on that. Then I'm going to schedule time to, have school for my kids and things like that. So that was really the two biggest transitions for me.
I love it. I know something about that life. So I just shooed my children out of here right now. So
luckily the baby still sleeps, so we still got some time.
I don't know, man. My 2-year-old wakes up like it's her job. Like soon as dad wakes up at 5, 6 o'clock, she want to be up. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. But curious, what tools do you use? What strategies do you use to organize your day, right? For individuals who are listening who are going through the same challenges right now. Sure.
So I really focus on I have 2 tools that I use and, technically 3. So my phone, of course, every night I create a to-do list and it is very, very strategic. Like I put what time I'm going to wake up, and I write actually out that time. And then I will put I schedule shower time, I schedule eating time, I schedule, from 9 to 10, I'm going to work on this client. And then from 10 to that client. Then from here, I schedule lunchtime, school time. So I use my phone as like my to-do. And then I just check off as I am going to know that task has been completed. Now, as far as my business, I actually use a company called Zoho. So I know a lot of people maybe have heard of like Despato or Active Campaign or anything like that. I absolutely love Zoho. Because like Zoho does everything. You can put your tasks, and that's what I use is, what I need to do for each of my clients. All tasks are in there and you can do your process of where you're at in that stage. I can see where my contractors are at in the projects that I assigned to them. I can invoice from them. I can do my CRM, which is your customer relationship management system in there. I could do my social media management in there, website, everything that you can think of is in there. So I run my entire business out of that platform. Yes. And then I use, because we do social media management, I use this app called, and I don't think I'm pronouncing it right. I'm just going to put that disclaimer out there. I pronounce it how it's spelled. So it's spelled AppHi. So APPHI. So that's how I pronounce it. I don't think that's right. But I use AppHi, which is a kind of new system, and they are amazing for scheduling posts. So it's like Buffer, like a lot of people might know Buffer or Hootsuite. They're actually less expensive and you get way more with their system. So you can it does 4 type of accounts: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can tag products, you can tag people, you can do first comment, posts, stories, IG, TV in there. pretty much everything you could think of other than direct scheduling, like direct messages or instant reply messages. It does all of that. And then you can also send it to your client, an approval link, and they will go in there and approve or deny what it is that you actually want to post. And then if they deny it, then you just rework it, you know, from that point. So those are the three systems that I use. QuickBooks too, but that's also connected to my Zoho account. So that way, you know, it goes into that and I can keep my accounting stuff on task. So when it's time to file those taxes, I'm not looking around for receipts or for this or for that. It's all tied together.
I love it. I love it.
So you're kind of touching on some of the things with the things that help keep you on track. They help also keep you on track with the work that you're doing, right? So touch on that a little bit. How, for those who are watching who may not be familiar with what a virtual assistant does, because I feel like that's a big catch-all word for a lot of things, right? There's a lot of virtual assistants that do a lot of different things. So tell us a little more about what that means within your scope and what's inside kind of that bucket for you.
Okay. So we we are one of those that do a lot of different things. And we call ourselves your not so average virtual assistant company. But we do your general, like, you know, if you ever worked somewhere and you had an administrative assistant that worked there, those are the type of services that we do offer. So we do email management, calendar management, bookkeeping, travel arrangements, like any of your basic day-to-day things that will tie you down. So this way you are no longer focusing on those small tasks and you can focus on the things that actually is going to help bring money, you know, into your account, and focus on the things that you actually love to do. Because nobody really just want to sit there and answer emails all day. They don't want to have to worry about scheduling meetings. You know, they like, if I could just give that to someone to set up these meetings, to make sure that they're on my calendar, to make sure I have those reminders when it's time to go out, to make sure that I stay on task, you know, and do what I need to do. Those are the services that we do. You know, you invoice, you know, your clients and things like that. We will do all of those type of things for you. And we do offer like various packages. So if you want to start off small, we have like a 10-hour, you know, package, and then we go all the way up to 32 hours, you know, for you to be able to do. And then you really kind of determine, depending upon how your business is, what those services are. But then we take it a little bit step further is when we help you with your social media, where we make sure we create graphics for you, we create the content for you, we do all of your engagement, where we answer your direct, you know, your messages that come in, your comments, the likes. When you get new followers, we have messages that we send to them, you know, promoting your freebies, or you have events, you know, coming up, we make sure we do that. We maybe get into running ads. Right now we don't, but I am looking to partner with someone that can do the ad part for us. We do it on just 4, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We don't do Pinterest. I know a lot of people, you know, some people have Pinterest, but we don't do Pinterest. And we do like instant replies where they use certain keywords that they type in, and our reply will go back to them based upon what they're actually looking for. And then we do website management and development with WordPress, Wix, and Squarespace. And then I actually have someone who does Shopify, but we do focus on service-based businesses. That's our target market, not people who necessarily do products, even though I know how that goes because I also own a product-based company, which is also service-based too at the same time. But we do like to focus on service-based businesses. And then we have you guys have heard me say this a couple of times already, which is customer relationship management systems, CRM systems. And that's where, like, when someone sign up for your email list, for instance, and now that person is technically considered a lead for you. So, okay, yeah, now they're on your list. Now what? What's the next step for them? Like, you don't want to just gain a bunch of emails and then you're not doing anything with them that's not beneficial to your business. And then you want to know, is it a waste of time, you know, as well? Is this someone that can become a client or not become a client? So it's an interaction between your company and this in particular person. So you will have your processes and systems set up of how you interact with your customer from the beginning to end. Like what contracts you send them, what invoice you send them, what's the next steps that will walk them to being a lead to a customer, and then a forever customer, hopefully, you know, depending upon your business. So that's what that system does. And what we do for clients is set that up in this way. It saves you time, and then it keeps you from missing steps that you would miss with the client. Oh, I forgot to send the invoice, or I forgot to send this proposal, or I forgot. Because a lot of times we rely on our memory, which we know fails us a lot, especially when we have a lot of things going on. And we rely on that and we miss stuff. And our clients are like, are they really professional? Do they really know what they're doing? And then why do I have 12 million emails to get through this process when it could be very seamlessly if you have a system in place? So those are the things that we do. And then we help you put those systems in place for your company. And then we also train your people on how to do it. And then you have like a 15-day like customer, you know, like if you need something after the training to help you through the process. And we also show you like where you can get help, and how most of them have like classes and courses you can take that will teach you how to do it. So we set you up with that as well. So it's not only important for us to have the systems to make sure that we set you up for success, but it is important for your business to have systems so you can create, you know, seamless success and give your clients the ultimate experience that they need and satisfaction that you're looking to have with your clients.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I was saying that was a lot. That was a mouthful right there.
You do so much.
That's a mouthful right there, but
well, and I kind of want to follow up on that with so many things that you're doing from that, like you were saying, that administrative role, but it's not just administrative. We're doing a lot of creative work as well. Mm-hmm. What helped you stay creative and motivated to do? Sometimes that work can get monotonous, and the reason why I say this because I did it for a long time. Yeah. And what do you pull from, and how do you stay creative and inspired and motivated for your clients, especially when you're doing things like email management and appointment setting, or also then having to constantly we have to constantly do that, right? And we have to stay creative around that.
Absolutely. Now, as far as like the general, if I can be 100% honest, like the general admin services, not a whole lot of motivation behind it. It's just task oriented, and I'm a task oriented type of person, but independent contractors are key. So I would absolutely say that. Your team is key. So I have 2 individuals that I contract out work when it comes to those tasks. Like I love project work. So far I have not been able to hand those things off yet. So when someone says, hey, I need this project done, it is something about the start and finish for me that is like the motivation, the driving point for me. So those I keep. But like your general stuff, unless it's something quick, you know, I can just do, and I don't have like a bunch of stuff on the creative side, because I love doing creative work. I love being able to develop and getting their ideas and with my ideas and coming up with something. And if they love it, then I'm like, yes, that works. So that goes. So before, you know, I owned a fashion business and I did jewelry. And so I was always into finding ways to design and, you know, do things like that. And so since I'm not in that industry, doing the creative content allowed me to be able to do that. I have to be honest, like the captions is probably the hardest part for me to figure out what to say, but all day long I can create graphics. And then I'm like, I spend so long with creating captions, but I take a day and I will say, today we're going to knock out maybe 10 posts with those captions, and then, you know, put all of what we need in there. And I really just kind of deep dive in. But so that kind of keeps me motivated, is like, because I like that type of work. But as far as like the general side of work, it's tasks that you can get done. I have help when it comes to that. And I also have help on the creative side, you know, with things as well. So it's not just all on me, because that's the one thing. And I'm working with my customers, letting them know, like, you're trying to do all this on your own, you're getting burnt out as an entrepreneur. So I knew coming in that I don't want to teach you that and then I'm doing it myself. I want to make sure that I'm setting up systems for you and I'm also doing the same thing for me in my organization. So I know what I'm talking about too. You know, I have that experience and it's not just mere talk, right? So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to do a little bit deeper dive into it though, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So we were conversing a little bit offline about this, but I was very curious to know, what are you reading? What entrepreneurs are you checking for? You know, there's a part of your business, you mentioned it, where you're working in your business.
Yes.
But then there's another aspect of business ownership where you need to be working on your business. And that usually means working on yourself.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So we know leaders are readers, and you are certainly a leader. And I know you're a reader. You're a consumer of information.
Yes, I am. To the core. So I am an avid reader, and I have like a whole list of books. I don't have a certain entrepreneur because I feel like I can find information from anywhere and from anyone, and I can always apply that. So it's not like a one individual that I have as like a mentor that I necessarily like look towards. And the funny thing about reading, I used to hate reading. There was like nothing that I ever, if I could avoid it, you know, that is exactly what have happened for me, was me avoiding reading. But I started working for a lady who does PR and marketing for book authors. And we used to have to read their books in order to market, you know, them the correct way. And so she would have me read her clients, and I was her assistant. And so she would have me read her clients' stuff, and that got me into reading. And then I started to discover all of the life lessons that you can learn with reading, right? And I grew so much personally and professionally with reading, professional development, personal development. So even like in the mornings, I listen to different podcasts, like as I'm getting ready, that is based upon either life lessons or business lessons. But like one of the books, or a couple books, I mean, obviously everyone know, but by Napoleon Hill, The Think and Grow Rich. That's a very common one, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And then one of my favorite books is called The Business Secrets of the Bible by Rabbi Daniel Lampkin, is like one of my favorite books. And it really kind of talks about like creating legacy, you know, for your family, and understanding the bigger picture and what it actually means, and, you know, what the Bible has to say about entrepreneurship and things of that nature. And then another one is like, What Got You Here Won't Keep You Here. That's a really good one, because we think that we can just kind of keep doing the same thing. It doesn't understand about pivoting and moving forward, and how our words hold value, even when we're working like with our staff, you know, and we might think that we're just saying an idea to them. They take it as a direct order, and then they go do it. And you're like, what are you doing? Which I actually experience now. And I'm like, it was a thought. I was just talking it out with you. I didn't mean for you to actually go change it. So it's funny that I'm experiencing that now. And I read it in that book, and I'm like, now I have to be very mindful of the words, you know, that I use. So it kind of talks a little bit about that. One of the books, it was kind of, you had to really kind of dive in, but the lessons in this book, I'm trying to see if I can pull up the name. It was a phenomenal book, and it talked about how the difference between certain organizations like Apple versus, you know, Android, and how, you know, State Farm versus this company, like different ones, and how they run and operate their business, and how this one company had to continually keep doing X, Y, and Z to stay afloat, where the other one was thinking more long-term. And so they're not in a rush, because a lot of times we get into business and we want to rush things, and we want to be the first at something, and we want to be quick with things, and we don't necessarily think of the long-term consequences that that may do. So like, for example, they did Apple versus Microsoft, and how Apple have to always keep, reinventing because of how the structure was, and also how their leader was not really willing to share a lot of the information on how things was done, where versus Microsoft was a little bit more slower with their development. And then they were able to come out with more line of things because they thought more long-term with it. So they don't have to always try to be the first at something or this or that. And they cause them to be more of a stable organization. Because of course we look at it on the outside and we think, oh, they're very successful because of the money. But if you kind of take more of a deep dive, and where this book, they actually do take a deep dive into the history and, how Apple, CEO took a year vacation, like, oh, we're doing good, I'm going on vacation for a year, and the business almost went out of business. But of course they didn't make that public information, but this person did get that inside. Whereas Microsoft was like, no, I don't care that we've been successful. Somebody is always on our back. Somebody ready to take our place. And we can't feel like that we're on top of the world, that we have already arrived. We will never arrive. We have to always stay on top of what we're doing versus Apple, like, oh, we arrived, we can go party, we can have fun, whereas now they're being undercut by another organization. So those are like some of the things that I was able to learn by a lot of the books. And I have a whole list of books, and if anybody ever want to know what those are, you can hit me up. I'll give them to you.
Might have you share them with us after we'll have you email them to us so we can share it with our people.
Okay, cool.
Great. I wanted to ask about this too, because again, we were talking before, obviously, we went live, and you have run and currently run several businesses.
Yes.
And I think what inspires me about that is that I think as entrepreneurs, we love a new idea. We love it. And we love like jumping into that. We love a new project. You say you're project-based too, so I get that. How do you, for the sake of time, and then for the sake of, you only have so much energy to give, how do you determine when you have these new ideas or you're presented with new ideas, which ones you're going to give energy to and which ones you're just going to kind of maybe come back to, or they just are there, they're not really something you're working on? How, with everything you're doing with ATB, that's a ton of work. And I know you have this team and help, but how do you decide different ventures that you're going to spend your energy on without always feeling like, oh, it's shiny new object syndrome, right?
Absolutely. Yes. One, I absolutely totally love that question, because my husband, for instance, is a very creative individual, and he always have ideas. And then he always wants to implement all of these ideas. So I was like, we can't have 20 businesses at one time. Like, it does not necessarily work. Let's talk about them and vent through them and see what actually makes sense and what can actually be a business. Is there really a market for this business? We can have all, can we create a market for this business? What goes behind this business? How much does it cost to get this business started? So the key for us is really brainstorming. So like every Saturday we have brainstorming sessions for every company, that we have. And so me and him, before everything would go down, we would go to the library and we would get one of those rooms, and we get on the whiteboard with our marker and we write out each idea, or we write out each business and say, hey, what makes sense? What doesn't make sense? What works? What doesn't work? What needs to happen and what doesn't need to happen? And so when you talk them out and you have someone you can bounce those ideas off of, then you can help determine what is the priority and what needs to happen. And so, for instance, as we were talking offline, we have like myself, I have All Things Business Center, but then we also have a company called ChargeBot, which is a charging station company. We also sell charging devices for people to use in their everyday life. And then my husband is starting a trucking business, and then we have an investment firm, right? So that is about 5 things I think I just named. So we, even though I own ATB Center and he owns his trucking company, we still 100% bounce ideas off of each other. We still have those meetings with each other about what should happen and what shouldn't happen, and how we can operated. Then we think about the cost of what everything would cost. So we have a fund that we put a portion of the income that we have coming in into a fund where we can then use that money to be able to invest when is the right time. So for instance, with him getting a new truck for his trucking business, we had the pandemic hit, the automotive industry went down. The trucking industry went down for a moment and they weren't able to do much. So it wasn't the time to buy a truck. Now we could have been like, oh, it doesn't matter. We're going to go ahead and, buy this. And we're not thinking about what's happening in the industry, what's happening in the economy. So I get that, we have all these ideas. We want to do everything. But when is the right time to actually execute it? When is the market showing you that it's actually the right time? Like with Chargeback, we have to pivot because our company is designed for major places like arenas and malls and things like that, where there's a big group of people. Well, that's not necessarily going to be the case as of right now, but business must still go on. So what is the best thing that we could do right now in this? So really, I just suggest to lay it all out, figure out where, because you want to count the cost. You want to make sure that you have the money to invest so that you don't end up stuck. We may have seen people who started on a house, but they couldn't finish that house because they didn't count the cost. They didn't know what it was actually going to cost to finish this house. They didn't have money on reserve in order to finish it. And now you're in a bind, so you want to think about that in all aspects. You don't want to overextend yourself, overexhaust yourself. Know when is the right time to move. When can you take money from this business and invest it into the next business? Because you want to have the resources to grow the business that you're currently in before you start taking money out to try to grow the next happening thing, and I tell people like to get off the trend wagon because a lot of people, they jump into businesses because this is the new trend that's going on. Mm-hmm. Now, if you maybe only want to make money for that, just for that moment, then cool, do that. But don't necessarily think about it in the long term because that's only going to be for now. And then you overexhaust yourself as that's your only source of business. And then when it's no longer a trend, like your business is out. So there's a lot of different factors to it, but I highly suggest talk it out with someone. Don't try to make all the decisions on your own. And if you don't have anyone that you can talk to, you're in the wrong circle. You shouldn't be the smartest person in your circle. You shouldn't be the only one in your circle because we all need someone. So talk it out with other people, run off those ideas. Because once you really talk it out, you realize that maybe that wasn't actually a good idea to begin with. It sounded good in your mind, but when you actually speak it out, it's like, what, that didn't work. So understand timing, understand costs, and understanding investing from one business to the next business.
I love it.
Hopefully that was good.
No, that was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you touched on so many gems that we're gonna have to recap here. I love listening to you talk about the interaction you have with your spouse, with your husband, right? Because when you are an entrepreneur, having the family on board is so absolutely important. I'm so glad you shared that. And then the masterminds, right? Mm-hmm. Masterminding and having that regularly scheduled mastermind to kind of work things out, as you said before, is so invaluable. I mean, you dropped so many phenomenal gems. I guess one of the questions I would pose to you, and you've kind of touched on this already, but I want to see if we can even do a deeper dive here. Okay. Because a lot of entrepreneurs, let's face it, they put their head in the sand when the pandemic transpired. I mean, they threw up their arms and kind of gave up, right? And took let's wait and see what transpires.
Right.
And, for me personally, I used to educate people and share all the time, look, especially when I was an investment advisor, I used to tell people, look, money does not disappear, it just changes hands.
Exactly.
Right. And so don't want to make light of the fact that, of course, there is a tremendous loss of life and hardship, financially and otherwise. But on the flip side, there are a lot of businesses that are thriving now and are setting themselves up to have a phenomenal run once some of the conditions associated with the pandemic subside. Mm-hmm. Or the entrepreneurs that are listening now, whether they're sitting on their hands or they're itching to get something started. What's some of the advice you would give right now? What are some of the things that you changed, ways in which you pivoted to adapt to what's going on right now?
Sure, absolutely. So like you said, we definitely don't want to make light of the pandemic that is going on. I've lost a loved one, due to this, and I know of other individuals who have lost their lives, in this, and I know businesses who were absolutely affected by it, and especially certain industries. But at the same time, that's when we also have to, in business in general, you have to be flexible, because if it's not this pandemic, it's always something. And this world is forever changing. And we cannot, as entrepreneurs, be stuck in our ways and stuck in it. If it's, we hear that slogan, if it's not broken, don't fix it, or if it's not, yeah. So it's like, well, things happen. And, you got, even when it came from the, social media boom, some business, well, we don't need to be on social media, or we don't need to go online. You think about Blockbuster, the story behind Blockbusters, where Netflix actually tried to partner with Blockbusters, and they was like, no one's going to do that. No one is interested in watching movies that way. And because they did not have an open mind and didn't want to pivot in a different way, because this is how we've always been doing things, they were blinded to how the world was changing. Excuse me, they're no longer around. And we've seen constantly more and more organizations going out of business due to the lack of them wanting to adjust to the way that things are going. So with this pandemic, this is something else that will make us tap into our creativity and think outside of the box and think outside of our comfort zone on a way that we have originally are familiar with doing business. And so for a lot of different industries, and because we do live in an online information age, there is a lot of ways that we can take some of the things that we do. And I know this is not every industry, but I do think about the car industry. My dad has been a car salesman for about 22 years, and that organization, he works for Chrysler, they decided we're going to make car buying online. But look at Carvana. They're completely taking over right now, where now you can buy your car online. They're building a place out in Novi, a big building, a vending machine building, where you can go pick up your car right from the vending machine. And so there's other ways that now people are buying cars. So in your industry, there may be another way that people are willing to interact with your industry. And one prime example from another interview I did last week, the guy is a photographer, and he's like, oh, my industry is dead. I'm like, absolutely not. It's not even close to being dead as a photographer, because people are still having events. People still want those things captured. But let's just say no one wanted you to come out, to their event. I know a photographer out in Southfield who during this pandemic made a ton of money by retouching people's selfies or pictures that they were taking at home. That was a great way to be innovative. Hey, we know you still want to take pictures to put out on your social media for your content. People do it all the time. Send us those pictures and we'll retouch them for you, for a small nominal fee. And people were sending and sending and sending and sending. They started teaching photography classes, online to teach you to understand how to be a photographer. I saw one of the chefs that owns Lee Culture, which is one of the popular restaurants that is in the city of Detroit, where he started offering cooking classes online for $60. You can learn how to cook some of the food that they make right there in their restaurant. And so it was like, yeah, he could have said, wow, my restaurant has to be shut down right now, and that's just it. I'm out of luck. He said, no, you know what? Let me think about what can I do differently that still can bring in income for my business. And he created, a course, and he sold the course for like $60. And I think maybe in like the first 2 days, it was like 100 to 200 people signed up in the first 2 days. So if you take $60 times 200 people, that's a significant amount of money with him just going online, teaching you how to cook, some of the meals that they make in the restaurant. So I would say for, the business people, makeup artists, do a tutorial on how to do makeup, sell those classes online. Think about what is a way that you can now take advantage of Zoom, take even more advantage of social media and start teaching the thing that you do, and those type and creating content, around that until maybe you can get back. If you're a hairdresser, teach about healthcare, maybe come out with a product, during this time. And that way you're able to sell your product, so just think about different ways that you can reinvent. Like our company, Chargebot, like we stated earlier, does not necessarily have the ability to be in, Little Caesars Arena right now. Like the customers are not there. So we created a tabletop charger, that goes into some of the restaurants that are open. We just had to think about another way. So I say tap into that inner self, that inner creativity, and think about ways that you could do it. Maybe even look at what some of your competitors are doing who's in the same industry and see how they're surviving, through this pandemic. My husband was like, oh, the car industry is dead, because he does car hauling. I said, people are going to still buy cars. Like the world didn't end. And people still need cars, and so places still need to get cars, to them. Just give it a minute, and you'll see that it's going to come back around, which it has. So, just get a little bit creative and think about a way that you can pivot and monopolize doing things online. And even if it goes back to normal, you now also have another stream of income for your business. So it's a win-win situation for you all the way around the board.
Phenomenal. So we were talking about Detroit and things, the conditions in Detroit have changed rapidly.
Absolutely.
Right? I remember what conditions were like 10 years ago. I remember what conditions were like 15 years ago when I was beginning my entrepreneurship journey. What are some of the things that you're excited about when you think about entrepreneurship here in Detroit today? And also, what are some of the challenges when you think about the landscape and what entrepreneurs are going to need to do to be able to pivot and change and continue to make the adjustments that need to be made, because conditions are changing. And some of these conditions were changing before the pandemic, right? The pandemic was kind of maybe pulled the sheet off some things, but there were already some really powerful influences changing the landscape here.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So as you stated, like I started my first business when I was 18. I'll be 37 in 5 days. And so I started very, very young in this, and there was not a lot of resources and help within the city of Detroit. I was born and raised in the city of Detroit. I was born in the hood, okay? Like, so very interesting upbringing, very interesting backstory. But my parents were always into entrepreneurship, or what I now call hustlers, so they always had something that they were selling, whether it was clothes, fireworks, purses, whatever. I always saw my parents, and even to this day, my mom is no longer with us, but she did start her own church and things of that nature. And but she always had the entrepreneurship spirit, and my dad as well, and they're doing very good things in his business, which he has a book, him and his brother, that teach young children about recycling and being responsible about the environment and things like that. And they have the whole characters like Marvel, the whole people that play the characters and things. And so they're doing really, really well. So I did have that in my household. My dad invented things all the time. So I automatically just kind of grew up doing that. My mom, went all through school, got her doctorate degree, and, all of that. And so I kind of follow in those same footsteps with her. And so starting off with entrepreneurship in the city of Detroit, I didn't realize, especially back then, how hard it actually was going to be and how limited of resources, financial resources, educational resources was really out there. School was just school. And I'm not trying to say it to disrespect anyone who went to school, but I did not. Even though I took business in school, at no point did I really learn about business in school. My real learning came from the actual journey of entrepreneurship. I got great connections, through it. And, so no discredit to school, but I mean, like, to really understand entrepreneurship is to be in it. And Detroit at that time didn't really have a lot of resources. And then eventually, so I kind of created one myself with a company called Wealth of Beginnings, but I still didn't necessarily have the funding or places that I can send them to kind of help with certain areas and et cetera. But then we left and we moved out of town for a while. And then I come back to this great now Detroit of what we are seeing. And I actually saw it happening from a distance when people in Detroit didn't see it. And how I saw it, I worked for a private jet company, and people were flying, billionaires were flying to Detroit very, very often. And I'm like, why are you going to Detroit? Like, what's in Detroit? Because before, you can buy our houses for $1. You know what I mean? Like, you can get our buildings for $100, the real estate for very, very low amounts of money. And now all of a sudden these billionaires are back and forth consistently to the city of Detroit. So I started asking questions, and I tried to get a group together they're obviously going to buy real estate or something. We need to start investing. And people are like, I'm not investing in the city of Detroit. It's trash. Like, who wants to be in the city of Detroit? And that was really the mentality for people who grew up in the city of Detroit. They didn't see what could potentially happen. And to see it now and have, as an entrepreneur, and to have places, there's so many of them, like Tech. Sorry. Can you please? Okay, sorry guys.
Life, it happens.
Yes.
I do apologize. One moment.
You're fine. No worries.
It's all good.
The joys of working at home, right?
Yes.
So anyway, so like I was saying, with different, hold on. Stay right here with mommy. Okay. So with different organizations now, we have like Tech Town and Build Institute, and we have places that may help you, start your business. They have a lot of different resources that allow you to Prosper Us, is another one that take you through courses that help you start your business and be very efficient in it and give you those tools. Then you have places like, Seed Lending and Honeycomb. There's like a lot of different places here that now you can get resources, financial resources for, that's not necessarily based upon your credit. For those who may not have the best credit and can't get a conventional loan, a lot of micro loans, there's Chase did the Colored Development Fund or something like that. So it's a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs, right now. So that's great. I'm excited that there's a lot of networking. There's co-working space that you can go to. There's a lot of opportunity for the Wayne County, not just the Oakland County, because before it was mostly just Oakland County. So now we have resources in Wayne County that is very beneficial to that entrepreneur. But one of the challenges that I see is everything, if you need a brick and mortar, space, the pricing is so expensive now that a lot of people can't really afford to even get the spaces that they're needed. And then now they're kind of stuck or being pushed out of being able to do it, or not really having the opportunity to get that building before it's bought up by some big developer or something like that. Like, we want to be able to have the opportunity to invest before they allow the bigger companies to come in and take up all of the real estate, before the people of our city have the opportunity to invest back in their own city. And I know with our mayor, with Mayor Duggan for the city of Detroit, he has put some type of regulation for these big organizations that are trying to come in and take over. There's things that you have to do and guidelines that you have to follow, which I definitely appreciate that, because you do have to hire a certain amount of Detroit residents if you want to build in the city of Detroit, or if you want to buy up these apartment buildings. You do have to have a certain percentage, of that building dedicated to low income families or people who are already there. You can't just, exit them out of that. But that can be a real challenge, for some people to be able to move forward when things have become so expensive, now, especially for the city. And you trying to go downtown, where downtown, as we were stating earlier, is a place that people were scared to go, to at times. And now it has become a very beautiful place, which is a blessing. And now we see a lot of diversity, down there, and people are, interacting with each other in a more positive way. But then at the same token is that those who have been here are kind of being pushed out a little bit, whether you're an entrepreneur or a resident, in those areas. So that can be a challenge. But again, those barriers won't stop any of us for those who really want it, but it can be a challenge.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, because like with my co-working space that we were in the process of opening, the Fisher building, and you could get a space in there. Building was so deserted. It's a historical building, but it still is kind of deserted. It's not they're getting more people, but back in, you can get it from the contract that I saw, it was like $10 a square foot, not that long ago. And now they're charging $24 a square foot to be able to get into that building. And that's very recent, within the last year that they went up so dramatic, with that. And I'm like, hey, we're just trying to make it out here in business. And now, I get it, you're trying to make money too. And I get this is going to be the new happening area. I get that, but don't make it tougher, for us to be able to still rent space, from out of here. And they're not the only space. I mean, there's other spaces that's the same. You got 7 Mile in Illinois, that was such a deserted, place. And now, the fashion district, as they call it, is back, and the rent over there is so expensive. And I'm like, you're not giving us an opportunity to be able to buy a building over there. Like a guy tried to sell me a building for like $750,000 in that area. And I was like, you cannot be serious. There is no way that I am going to pay you $750,000 for a building over here on 7 Mile in Illinois, and it's like 2,100 square feet. It's not even a huge building. I was like, your expectations is, not 750,000, it was 450,000, excuse me, $450,000. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. But you just see how, people are trying to get over, on people, and that becomes a challenge. And I have so many entrepreneurs that want to open brick and mortar businesses in the city of Detroit, but charging people $30 a square foot is just not necessarily the best financial decision for them. So now they're still, yeah, they see that you're ready. Thank you. Stop. Go show your sister. No. Okay, I had to bribe her with candy very early in the morning.
Fine.
But she wants you guys to see the picture that she drew. So stay in there and go eat your candy over there. Go. Here, let me open it. Sorry, guys.
No, you're fine.
No worries.
There you go. All right, see you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See ya. The joys.
So yeah. Well, everything you've shared today has been amazing and invaluable, and love this insight, especially as you're someone who's in the city getting through this pandemic. You're pivoting all day with everything that you're doing. So, we really appreciate you taking the time to offer your experience and insight today. We try and end on fun, lighter notes.
All right.
So it's kind of a double question. What is your superpower, or what is your spirit animal? So you can pick one of you if you can't figure out one. And we suck at this question ourselves. So
let's see. As someone who is a comic book fan, and I love Marvel, and so one of my superpowers would be to vanish and reappear. So when I need my time to myself, I would just completely vanish. And then when I'm ready to come back out and be bothered, you can now see me. So
recharging is important, especially important as an entrepreneur, so that you can just in life, but reset your brain so you can come back with full force.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with a family of, it's 7 of us in total, 5 children and a spouse and me and business and everything else, like you definitely have to recharge. And sometimes it's kind of hard when you have a house full of kids to just disappear, because even when I try to take a shower, somebody's at the door trying to get in. So it's like, if I can just, whoop, you don't see me. I'm not here. and now I'm back. Like, here I am. So
empathize with that. So leaving our audience as well, what is the number one important lesson you'd like to leave? I know we touched on a ton of things today, but if you could summarize one of the most important things about entrepreneurship and what it means to you, what would you leave our audience with?
Yeah, and actually we didn't talk about this, but this is what I found in my entrepreneurship journey is be an entrepreneur with something that's bigger than you. Like that, because it can get very lonely, and it, like, your why have to be something much bigger than you and bigger than money. It has to be something that really brings value, because you're going to look up, and after you had the money, after you had the success and the fame, you're going to look around and be like, what else? What's next? What's life? And you don't want that, like you want to be feeling fulfilled as you in the journey and as you continue to grow. And so your why makes a big difference. So just when you jump into entrepreneurship, I know we are all money, 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 money. And that honestly should not be your focus, because when you do something that's bigger than you, the money will follow. It's going to come. That should not be your focus. I tell people, if you're chasing money, it's going to always keep running from you because you're constantly chasing it. Let it come to you. And how to do that is just doing something that's more so in a purpose-driven mission than just a money-driven mission. And still make money while you do
it. Yes, perfect. Well, Kieara, we appreciate you being with us. If anyone in our audience or anyone who's watching the replay after wants to get a hold of you, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can actually email me at info@atbcenters.com, or you can give me a call at 313-365-0595. And to learn more about what we do, you can go to our website, which is www.atbcenters.com, and we are ATB Center on all social media platforms.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you to everyone watching. We will be back again with more to talk about next week. Bye, guys.